All right, I'm super thrilled right now. I'm in Wellington at a house that we bought recently. This past week, we closed on it. There's a lady living here right now. Really cool story. Just want to share the story. So she reached out to us. I think she may have heard about us through a friend of hers or something like that. And I mean, the main reason why I'm sharing this video is because these stories are so individualized and everyone's situation is different, So in this case, this is an elderly lady. She's lived in the house since the 60s. Really, really interesting because her late husband, purchased the house and anticipated having her, Barbara is her name, having Barbara change her last name to his last name through marriage. He thought that she would say yes to getting married to him, and turns out that she actually did not agree to marry him. However, when it was titled in Barbara, the guy's last name, which ended up not being her last name. They never did anything. They never changed it. And so the guy passes away, I think back in the 80s. And so now she's living in this house. They were never married and had this guy's last name, which caused this big slew of issues, but not in the 80s because she just stayed here, paid the taxes, took care of the property, all that kind of stuff. Well, the plot thickens here because the guy, before he and Barbara got together, had been married and had 2 kids previously, and left that family high and dry. The kids were younger than 10 years old. So who knows the full story? Who knows how that whole thing was? But just to give you an idea of what's actually going on here. So he leaves them. So now here's what happens. So the guy dies in the 80s. Barbara lives here. Now she wants to move. And so she reaches out to us. Well, she said, hey, I'm thinking about selling the property in the next 6 months. Okay, great. So 6 months. So I guess we were busy that week or something. I was talking to my buying specialist about it, and it ended up being, meeting got postponed or whatever. We missed a call. I can't remember what it was. And so she calls a couple times over the weekend when we don't get back to her. And so we reach out on that first phone call. It's like, yeah, 6 months, did a preliminary call. And then we reached back out to her later in the week to set up a time to meet with her. And she says, oh, no, I'm already selling it to one of our competitors. So usually we do like a follow-up on something like that. But I'm like, this just doesn't, there's something not right here. Things just weren't adding up based on, these details, some extra details. So I go and I meet with her and I sit down with her and, built trust, built rapport, told her about, the whole situation, about how we can help, etc. She needed help getting into the new place. And so she says, yeah, well, how much would you have been able to pay for this? Well, it turns out we were going to pay $30,000 more than the competitor. Believe it or not, she wasn't really riled up about it. She was like, oh, well, too late. So I said, okay. So, I followed up with her a couple of weeks later, and she says, oh, the competitor's saying that they can't purchase the property because there's a probate that needs to be done on my late husband. So the title company uncovered the name difference issue, all that kind of stuff. I don't even want to go into initially how would the title company have allowed for the name to be in the other thing, but this is back in the 60s, right? So So I said, okay, well, we can definitely help. And just knowing the slew of issues, my business partner is an absolute animal when it comes to figuring stuff out. He knows so much more than even a lot of attorneys know because of how complicated a lot of these properties. We purchased and sold over 200 properties. And so we've seen a lot of interesting stuff because it's not just retail stuff going on. So, so I tell him, she says that it has to be a probate. I tell my partner, he says, well, we need to get to the bottom of who the kids are, who this guy, had kids that Barbara knew about. So, what ended up happening was that the other guy, competitor that was purchasing the property, is like, oh, well, she never met the kids. She doesn't know where they are, doesn't know pretty much anything about them. And so he's like, okay, well, sorry, we can't do anything. And he just leaves it at that. And so I told her, okay, well, let's wait until the contract gets canceled, and then we can definitely help, because we have some really cool methods and secrets on how we go about finding people. So we wait till that contract expires, and we figure out how to call. So I end up calling. The first conversation I have is with one of the sons, who she never even met, his wife. Now, granted, she's like Barbara's like 90. So these people are like in their 60s, 70s, something like that. So I talked to this lady, the wife of the guy, and that's an interesting conversation. So if you have enough of those, you'll figure out how to have that weird first conversation, because it feels like it might come across scammy, where it's like, what is this? Who is this person calling me right now? So I get through the gatekeeper. I get to the bottom. I have the first conversation with one of the guys. Ends up we have multiple conversations. Everything gets laid out. And the brothers, really interesting story. I obviously not sharing names or personal information here, but from their perspective, their dad had left them when they were less than 10. Left the mom high and dry, never said anything to them, no contact over their entire life. And then I guess they had done some research when they became adults to find out where he is or where he was. They lived up north, he lived down here, and they found out that that the guy had, remarried and knew about this. So basically their phone call, here they are, their whole life, they get a phone call. Hey, guess what? You own 50% of a property that's, going to be worth $500,000 when it's fixed up. So it's a pretty interesting phone call that they got. On the flip side of the token, from Barbara's perspective, she paid the taxes her whole life. She took care of this property, for so long, and now she doesn't even have the full equity piece, all based on some stupid title mess up. That's why it's so important. Anytime you're doing any sort of title work, it has to be done correctly. And how do you know? You have to go what would you do if you had an issue, personal issue with the doctor? You got to go to the doctor that specializes in that and has done it 100 times. So the same with this. We have a very small handful of people that we work with, because there's a lot of attorneys out there that swear that they know the best, they know what's going on, and you think attorney, it's got to be good. But time and time again, we've seen attorneys who don't know what they're doing mess it up. So here we are. Fast forward, it's been several months now. Bought it this week. Let Barbara live here for a little more time that she needed. I'm going to help her in a multiple of different ways. Move stuff out, leave stuff that she doesn't want, gave her money up front, and she has a check coming. She's old school, obviously doesn't do Venmo or, you know, any of that kind of stuff. So she's like, oh, she calls me up yesterday. She's like, I don't have any cash. I don't have any money, and I need to run errands over the weekend. So here we are on Christmas Eve. And so my business partner, Eitan, shout out Eitan, went to the bank yesterday and picked up some cash. So bringing her up some cash, even though she has the money coming to her. But this is what we do. This is one of the things that we do as a company that's different. Here it is, Christmas Eve, and I could be hanging out with my family right now, but I'm driving up here 45 minutes away to deliver this lady some money, so she has some money over the next few days. So I'm going to take this to her, and I'm going to ask her if I can do a little quick video testimonial. So we'll see if I follow up with one of those right now. All right.